Hello and welcome back to our second day of Alpha DevCon 2021. Happy to see everyone back here today. Our first session has to do with TransForm, and we've made some significant improvements to the TransForm system over the last year. And I have Dan Bricklin, our CTO and creator of TransForm, here to review those new features. A lot of them have to do around analytics, which I think, as I pointed out, is sort of the theme of this year's DevCon. So let's get started. Hello, Dan. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Let me go ahead and make you the presenter. And if you want to share your screen, you can do that.
Okay, let's see which one we want to show. A screen. Which screen we want to show? That's it. Screen 2, and you'd like it clean, right?
Clean. Yes.
And that's what you're seeing?
Meaning no background. We don't mean anything funny by clean. Just
yeah, I know. It's background. I'm not going to show you the background anyway. And you can see.
I can see both of you, and then I'll ask you to drop off camera a little later on when we start getting to things that you need to see up close.
Okay.
So right now we're good.
Okay, so we're going to go. The title of this is TransForm New Feature Review, according to the agenda. So let's get into it. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, well, at last year's DevCon, we had just finished all sorts of stuff. We added these multi-column layouts to TransForm in the filler so that you could have fields next to each other, and if you had a wider screen, you would end up with more fields or whatever you wanted, and a nice new look and feel. The ability to have canned images, which was that you could choose from predefined images, so you could have templates and then draw on them or something like that. You could assign a form instance to a queue, and then individuals could take them off the queue. We had a demo account. We had all sorts of things that we added last year. And last year, looking back, I say, well, what did I say we were looking forward to the roadmap for next year? Well, one was dashboard for analytics. That was one of the things. The other is internal changes for WK WebView. This is something that may or may not matter to users, but does matter to us a lot. It's that Apple, for the version of the mobile form filler that runs on iOS, you have to use a different underlying technology for displaying, which happens to be faster, but has a lot of issues with security, that it does some tighter things. And it took a lot of work to make sure we switched it over to handling that. We said we were going to do some edit in place and perhaps move towards a browser-based form filler and more built-in workflow. Well, what actually happened? We did get the dashboard for analytics, and that's mainly what I'm going to be showing you. And as Dave said, that's a theme generally about analytics. When we did the analytics for TransForm, we were starting to shake down all sorts of features in Alpha Anywhere for analytics, and it would benefit from the testing that I would be doing and stuff. The internal changes for the WK WebView were indeed done. We have not shipped that, but it's all been done. Took some work with a few of us, but we're now able to do that. There's the edit in place was not done, but a step was made towards the browser-based form filler, and we'll talk about that on Friday when we get into the roadmap. But the browser-based form filler is something that we're looking forward to. In terms of workflow, there were internal things that were done to improve it quite a bit, and maybe some other minor things, but no major things, I think, to workflow were done over the years. But we'll talk about that again in the roadmap for next year. So the dashboard. The dashboard is the Alpha TransForm Analytics. That's the branding that we're putting on it. And it's it, if you listen to the stuff that Greg did yesterday about doing dashboards and stuff, we're aiming for a certain type of use of dashboards, and this is for setting up and repeated timely viewing of needed summary data in a dashboard style. I mean, it's the subset of the types of dashboards is, we want to make it so you could set it up without too much trouble, and being able to see the same thing over and over again with not having to click very much. It's all set. Charts, lists, and text box highlighting specific information are the type of things that we have, and there are others, but those are the ones that we've implemented. We have the ability to drill down on summary data, so you could find out which individual form instances and fields are behind something in the charts, the list, the text box. You can tailor the listing columns. We have export capabilities that are similar to the TransForm Management Console. There have been some upgrades to both of those, but mainly in the dashboard, which in many ways will replace, for most uses, the Management Console. One thing that we did was that there's ability for the user, the particular user who's looking at the dashboard, to tailor the data filtering, some of the parameters for charting, and other things with just clicking on some buttons, some simple stuff. These user inputs let you dynamically, instantly change or quickly change what you're looking at. You can change the rules for filtering, the time ranges that you're looking at, some threshold values, sorting and stuff, and I'm going to demonstrate some of those things. So some concepts about our analytics. What you're seeing is what we call dashboards. This is the account usage dashboard. The dashboard has the charts, the lists, and other information as tiles, and which go one right after the other, and you can adjust the sizes. So these are 3 different dashboards, and you can switch between them. You see here it says account usage dashboard. This is the TransForm Analytics dashboard, and you can switch between them just by clicking on them. So you would set up these different dashboards, and we'll be setting up a dashboard in a minute. So here are the different dashboards. They're per user, so my dashboards. Per account, you can have them shared so that the account administrator can set up dashboards that others can use without them having to create their own. So they don't even need to know how to do it. That can be done by an administrator. And there's some shared system ones so that we can create ones that you can use by default, or just click on them and use them and see them. And then they can be customized. You can customize them and save them as your own dashboards if you want. So it's pretty flexible in that. We wanted to make it that for regular users, they may not have to do very much at all. Just bring up dashboards, maybe choose from a list of them here to be able to get useful stuff. Now, the analytics are done with the form instance data. So every time somebody fills out a form in TransForm, it has 2 sets of data. It has the common metadata field, such as the date, time when it was created, the type of the form, which is an ID name that's assigned by the creator, its status, such as open or submitted, the person it was assigned to, and a lot of other information, including some free ones that can be defined by the designer of the form, can make them for whatever they want. These are all available at the top level of the record that is used to store. So these can be searched very easily using SQL commands. server side to very quickly, even if you had thousands and thousands of forms, we can very quickly be able to filter based on these. But in addition, there's the form data, which is in essence JSON. It's a JSON data, which makes up the main data of a form instance. Really flexible. It has data values, usually strings, and there are text values, and you can have arrays of data. So you could have multiple measurements or multiple photos together with information about the photos. And anybody who has seen TransForm knows about that. And if you haven't seen TransForm, well, you'll see some samples in a minute. The drill down, you can click on chart elements and see a list of the contributing forms. So that if I have a bar in a bar chart, I can click on it and it will show you the rows that correspond to the form instances for that. And you can click on individual ones and see even more the details about that. You can output the dashboard itself as HTML or a PDF, and you can output the forms in a variety of formats, including HTML and PDF, JSON, and Excel for certain things. This is similar to what we had before in the management console. So let's go exactly what's happening. This is the data flow for a dashboard. This is what's happening, and you need this. It helps to have this mental model if you're creating a dashboard. And so TransForm in the cloud basically has all this data about all of the different form instances. And when you refresh the dashboard, when you want to when the dashboard is about to be displayed, or a change is made that means that we have to change the whole dashboard, which can be done automatically. So it happens automatically over time, so that you can have a display a big screen, for example, in a factory that will update every 15 minutes automatically with the new values. All form instances for the account. Let's start with that. We then filter and sort those forms on the server. The filtering is done both by SQL, or if it's some of the filtering criteria you give are something that can't be done in SQL, such as running a TPL function, the Transform Programming Language function, or a filter test that's not supported by SQL, then that's still all done on the server. And then those forms are downloaded to the dashboard. And now we're talking about what's actually in your browser, so it's available to be updated quickly and without needing to go back to the server. Let's call that $all rows. It's all rows. There's a reason why we call this, because actually in your TPL that you use, you have access to this data, which is an array of all of the form instances. Each tile has optionally its own filter and sort information that takes this data and then further filters it, additional filtering and additional sorting. And then that gives you rows. This is the rows that are going to be used by this tile. That's then processed and rendered in some format. And there's a variety of different renderings that can be done, different types of charts, lists, and text that can be shown. So have this in mind. When you refresh the tiles, this is just done in the browser itself, and it can be very quick. It doesn't require going back to the server, depending on how many tiles you have and how complex they are. This can be extremely quickly, even if you have many forms out on the server. So the filtering and sorting, you get to specify in a dialog what the filtering is. So like the form ID is one of this is created in, and you this clicked on this and you have dialog box to be able to configure it. They're very, it's very powerful, the types of configuration, and we'll show you this in a minute. And it uses a new facility that's come in to Alpha Anywhere that will be available shortly. It's available under a feature key right now, which is the form box, and which makes it easy to dynamically create these controls and have them change dynamically with very low overhead in the browser, unlike the traditional way in Alpha where you have to have just lots and lots of controls. The different type of tiles, there are when you create a new tile, you get to choose from a list of pre-built ones. They're the different type of tiles, and then you can configure it yourself with different properties for the tiles, such as, what are you graphing, what type of graph is it, and we have all different types of charts and processing of the data. So, for example, the count of different X values, the sum of Y values, the average, the minimum, the maximum, scatter plots and continuous line plots and stuff. You can do those. We have this thing called user inputs. User inputs are basically something you can click on, such as you can see here, the filter the year, yes or no. If you say yes, then this shows up. If you unclick it, then this disappears. And it says what year were the forms created, and you can actually, or quarters or whatever, and you can go back and forth by clicking on this. And this is configurable. You can use that for enabling, disabling, filtering, and sorting steps, so that you can have like 3 different or 4 different types of filters and choose among them by disabling them. There are various parameter values, and there are 2 types of user inputs. They're the top level ones that affect the entire dashboard, and they're ones that are per tile, so that you can do change values for each of those. Like an awful lot of things now in TransForm, the TransForm programming language lets you drop into code. This is a low code system. So much can be done just by choosing from dialog boxes, but also you can go in and write real live code yourself. And you can do the filtering using TPL. You can process the data used in a tile and various chart parameters. We'll show you that in a minute. So that you can, and you can do that pre-processing, post-processing, post-processing. There's all sorts of times when you can come in. There's an option to be able to say, well, I don't like the way that you didn't give me the option that I needed. I'll do it by hand, and you can write some TPL. This is almost never needed by most people, but you may want to, and that's why we have the shared, the ability to do shared dashboards, so that somebody can configure it for you with all this powerful stuff. Also, you can refer to functions, TPL functions, to do something complex, and that can be done on a per account basis or a per dashboard basis or per tile basis, so that you don't even need to know that. You might be able to, you'll just refer to a function that was created by somebody else, which could be with our help, or it could be done with by somebody knowledgeable, one person knowledgeable in a company. Okay, demo time. I guess I now turn myself off, right?
Wow, I didn't even have to prompt you. Amazing, thanks.
Yeah, well, that's because I kept on looking at myself and saying, wait, why am I still showing? So let us end the slideshow here. End slideshow. So here we go. Now I'm running this in my test environment, which is a little different than what you have, but everything I'm doing here you can do. Dashboard is in TransForm central here over on the right. You'll find it, I believe, over at the left currently, but that's probably going to move around as we do different things up here over time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here, and I'm going to you see my dashboards. I have a feature test and a couple things, and we're looking right now at the system share dashboard, which is default, and you just get this, and it's showing, that I have 121 forms, and last one was created last June. But I'm going to add a new blank dashboard, and so let's look at it. Number of forms is 121. So it's got default forms dashboard. Well, that's not very interesting. So let's, but since I've now modified it, it says click to save modified information about all your dashboards to the server. Once you've made changes here, if you want to, you can save it back. This will affect it only for yourself and for the user that's logged in. Right now, let me make a change here. So the dashboard name, so here we see the properties, filtering, sort, order, and user inputs. The dashboard name is default user form dashboard. Let's call this the demo dashboard. And if I save it, demo dashboard. And when I saved it, it went back to the server and updated the whole thing, okay? And you can see down here that there's a preview that shows you the first, I don't know how many forms that would have been found using this filtering and what you set up here, and this sorting, etc. So let's go to filtering over here, and there's no filters. So we can create a filter, we can add a row, we can add a group of rows, and we can add special types of rows like TPL and stuff, and we can change the order. The filtering is done from top to bottom. You must pass all of the filters. Does it pass this one, this one, this one? Or you can create a group. If you create a group, you can say it's an OR group. And in an OR group, you can say that any one of these, if they're true, then it passes. So you have the ability to do that. So let's create a plain old filter, and it starts out and says specify an optional form type whose field names will appear in the choices below. When I look at the fields, right now I'm only seeing the fields that are common to all forms. If I want to see the form data fields, I can choose a form type up here, and then it'll add those fields, and we'll see that later. So let's go here and say the form ID, and let's you can say, is it less than, equal to, greater than. One of the items in a list, between, these are, most of these can be done using SQL, but not all of them. There's matches, which is like a regex and stuff like that. So let's look for one of the items in the list. And for form ID, the list that you get is the list of forms. So in this case, I'm going to get, there's a form that I have called Lang1, language test, and there's this other one over here called the general sample that I've used in all sorts of examples that I've shown, and as a default, I think, that you have in TransForm. And so now that I've done that, so the form ID must be either general sample 1 or the Lang. So right now you see we're seeing gsample, pump jack, expense, etc. But it says the filter change may need a refresh. Let's do a refresh. And here we have gsample and the language. And this is the details field. This is for every form. Optionally, you can define a template that is data driven if you want, and that particular one happens to have it. So, and if I save this, we now see that we have 39 forms. So that's, and this tile, let's go edit the tile. The tile has a size, and I could make it bigger. Let's make it large and medium inside. Now it's much bigger. That's the size it's going to be. Well, this was, I think, was small, like this. Can have a template. You can format the template. You can choose a format. The default is this large text centered horizontally and vertically, but you can choose other forms depending on what you want. Or the template itself takes HTML. It's a TPL template which allows most HTML in it. So here you can see a break, and it allows you to make reference. Remember, we said that $-rows is a list of all the rows. Let's get a length of that. Now, how do you know that $-rows is the thing? Whatever. Well, it turns out that there's a help if you help then tells you you can get to this. There's this wonderful analytics guide that tells you everything there is to know about TransForm. It tells you an awful lot about how to use this. And for example, extensibility via TPL, here you have -rows, -all rows, and I use this list, to be able to prepare for this demonstration. So one of the things that you'll see here is that there are some functions. There's a function called chart gauge, which can takes a value and optionally some other things. And if I go in here and put in a break and then put in chart gauge and put in 47, let's say, like that, now I get a nice little gauge chart like this, and 0 to 7, of course, and you can change what these values are programmatically. So you can do all sorts of interesting things, and over time we're going to be adding other functions here. And of course, you can make your own functions that are TPL functions. You can add TPL functions that are invoked over here, and be able to do interesting outputs. And Greg may show you some of that. I'm not going to show you all sorts of things because I mean how you might use this, because Greg is going to go into that. I'm just going to show you some of the underlying stuff. And this shows the filtered list and show what happens when you click on this. This says that if you click on it, on this tile, it will show a list of all of the forms that this has been using the filtering here. But you can also show a list of all of the forms that have been filtered for this particular dashboard. You get to choose that. So let's leave that. So there we have that. So let's look at another type of tile. So this tile I have here, I have a very short list in my demo environment. You'll have much more complete list with things that you may find more useful. So here we have I'll just show it to you. This is the days when the forms were created: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So of these 39 forms, 10 of them were done on Monday, 3 of them were done on Thursday, and you know, how many are there? And it says day of week. If I click on that, I'm going to get these 3, and these happen to be Thursdays I checked. So let's do some customization here. And actually, we'll come back to this in a minute. Let me do another one. I'm going to add another new tile, and I'm going to do a list. So this now is a list. So you can have a chart, a list, or text. And what the chart says is, let's make this a little wider, let us say, and let's make it start on a new row. Okay. So now we have 39 machine forums. They're sorted by date, and you can see sorted by date like that. Let's edit the tile. It says create. So here we have what the template is. This is used for each row. It says the created is, this is normal TPL, the created value and the form ID value. And display a heading for the list. And it says this many retrieved forms sorted by date. And you can put whatever you want in here, and that affects this. So filtering, there's no filtering, but there is sorting. It's sorted by created, by the created field, and it's sorted up. And you can see that here, that it's 2017, 2018, etc. If I, and this is enabled, let's disable that. Now that it's disabled, you'll see that it's not sorted. It's back to that original order, which is all of the G samples first and the Langser second. Okay, let me create another, and this is now down. So by down starts most recent one and goes back in time. So you can do by sort. But this, so you can manually go and enable and disable, so you can have all sorts of stuff. This is really useful when you're debugging, when you're building the tiles. You can put filters or sorts, and you can disable them and enable them to try out different ones. In addition, you can put a description, sort down, which appears just here in the list, so you can remember what it's for, or you can let this let whoever is going to modify this later on know what you're trying to do. A lot of places in the dashboard you can put descriptions that are there to help you understand what it is that you did or somebody else. So let's now create a user input. Okay, and the first user input we're going to do is we're going to call this user input sorter, the direction of sort. And we'll say sort direction. And we're going to make it a list. And the list is, the first one is up, and it has a value of lowercase up. And the second one is down, and it has a value of down. Oops. And you can remove these, you can add new ones. The initial value is up, and the current value is up. I can put, and rules can be enabled and disabled. If you see over here, you see, you see that the it just like the rules, the user inputs can see that's there. If I disabled it, it's not shown, so that you can actually enable and disable the user inputs. So you can have one checkbox that shows or hides others. So then, and you can have text, dates, date, time, relative dates, list, checkboxes, and just a heading. Let's go over here and say that this is determined by user input, and the user input name is sort direction, and it's disabled if it doesn't equal up. and this is disabled if the sort direction does not equal down. So now you can see I can switch them just by doing this. Okay, so that is, oh, and now let's do another one. I don't get to get user feedback, so I can't ask if this is interesting or not. I hope it is. Let's create another one, and we'll call this, let's call this real year. And it is, let's say this is when. And we're going to say that this is a relative date, and it's an adjustable period. It is a year, and the initial value is this year. And we'll set this so it's year 0 is the value. And then we go over here, and we'll do a filter, and we'll say that the created is during a relative time period. And the value is a user input. When? So that's just this year. That's last year. That's 2 years ago. That's 3 years ago. That's 4 years ago. That's how easy it is to be able to make changes like this. Okay, so let's go back to this. Let's see. First thing we'll do here, let's go through these. We have this, as we showed you before, this is a chart. We can do the size. Let's see, let's make, let's make this a little bigger like this. And we have the starts new row or not. This auto preview tells you whether this changes immediately or not. Usually leave that on. And let's look at the chart type. Well, this is now currently a bar chart, but I could make a stacked bar chart, percent chart. I can make it a line chart. We have scatter charts, pie charts. You know, you can change all sorts of donut charts, polar charts, etc. Or just a list of values, which sometimes is useful, especially for debugging if you want to see that. But let's go back to bar chart. What do you do with the values? As I showed you before, you can do the count of different discrete X values. So how many Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays were there? The sum of the numeric values. You want to be able to, how many were sold, how many were, etc. Average, minimum, max. And then other things that you might need. And then you can just, all the charting data can be done by TPL. Where's the source? Is the source specific fields from each form, or do you want to just let TPL calculate the whole thing because you're going to look at all the data and do all sorts of transformations? You can do that. I'm not going to do that now, but you can, and there's enough information in here to be able to teach you what to do that. Should blank values be excluded when you do a count? That's a useful thing. I mean, if you want to be able to do that, sometimes you want to include blank values, and sometimes you don't. So you get to choose that. And then there's this pre-processing the data using TPL or post-processing the data using TPL, and I'm going to show you that later. So this is the X values, and the X values are in this case, you're choosing from the field list. You can tell it here which, if you want to be able to take a form value, you have to tell it which form you're going to, in which case. So for example, if I had said that this was G sample, general sample, then when I have my list here, you'll see that it has all the form fields for that. You know, if it's the first time you used it or whatever. I'm going to use created. And then there's this thing called clustering for X. What clustering does is it says, let's transform the value into into a smaller set of values. So instead of having the created date, I just want to know the day of the week. So you can do no clustering, you can do custom clustering. I can say that I want to do it by what year, by what month, what day, what week. So there's this little thing down here, show intermediate data. Now what you get to see is that's what the collected data looks like, okay? This is the data that I'm getting off of the form instances. You can see that X is Monday, 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 Wednesday, Wednesday, all these values, okay? That's because I said day of week. If I said no clustering, then you're gonna see the full list of all the different dates. And look at this, it's got all the different, that's just so many of them. I could say that I want the clustering to be by year. If it's by year, you get the year number. And you see here that I'm getting just by year. And one of them is day of week, but there's also a thing called custom. And with custom, you get to say, if it's a number less than 4, use the value small. If it's less than, you can use whatever text you want. You can also do ORs. You can have wildcards, and also you can have use text values so that, as opposed to numeric values for doing your clustering. So you have a lot of ability to do your clustering, or of course you can drop into TPL and do it that way if you want. I'm just going to do this over here. But this is useful. You get to see then this is pre-processed, and then processed, there are 10 Mondays, 16 Wednesdays, 10 of this. And it comes from form number 0, 1, 2. This is so when I click on it, I know exactly which form instance to go through. And then there's this post-process data where I can add other things that show up here, and we'll show you this in a few minutes. Okay. So that's the X values. And here is the Y. In this case, the Y value is computed by choosing a processing method. So it's not worth saying anything here, so that's okay. We can group them. Why don't we, so right now, sometimes you want to be able to say, well, I want this, but I want to see how many for each year. So let's do group data, and we'll say that let's group it by, let's see, what was the group by, by year, I don't know, or by person, let's see, by created. And you can see how many are different created. Let's actually do this. Let me use, let's group it by whether, let's go down to the form data, whether this was the first time you've used this field or not. And we'll say we don't see anything here. It doesn't change it, except now you can see that there are different bars for the different groups, but there's no legend for the groups. Now there's a legend, and you can see there's blank, a lot of blanks, no's, and yeses, and there's a lot of ways of changing the way this stuff looks, so you can deal with all of those type of things. So that's the grouping, which allows you to get, and you can move the legend, and I can move the legend instead of the bottom. Let's put the legend on the right. Now, see, now the legend's on the right, etc. And what other stuff do we have here? the title for the chart and the title for it. And do you want to turn things on the side? So I can rotate these, see how they're rotated, you know, to make them fit better, and you can move them away, make a bigger margin, you know, bigger margin, etc. And we can put in a threshold line. Let's say that, what's the numbers here? Let's say 5, that there, let's put a threshold line, and we'll put it at 5. And this is our goal. And now if you look at it, it says the goal is here, and you get to have that line, which is a useful thing to have. And you can set the axis yourself. And let's see. Now let me go back to here and say that, let's say there's some post-processing. And in the post-processing, I now can put some TPL code in. So let me copy some TPL code and put it in here. That's probably the way you'll do it. Somebody will write it for you. I'm going to take all the data, which is the processed data, the already processed data, and I'm going to go through all of those, and I'm going to get a pointer to a row. So this is D sub I, and I can set the label to be the value. If the value is 5, then I'm going to make a tooltip that says this is 5! Otherwise, it'll just say the value is carriage return concatenated with the value. If it's less than 5, I'm going to have the label is going to be in red and say that it's low. Okay. So now if we look at this, you can see for debugging, you have this to help you with debugging. And if we look at it, look at this. Let's save it. And if I go over it, the value is 4. The value is this. Well, none of them are 5. If one of them was 5, then it would say this is 5. But you get the idea in terms of that. So that is post-processing. Let's drill down on, they're 22. Let's go to 2 years ago. Here we go. There are a couple forms here. Let me, I can drill down on individual forms. Or actually, let's go back here. Let's drill down on these, Thursday, these 6. And well, we can do all of them. Why don't we do all of them? Okay, so here's all of them. It's worthwhile saying all of them. So you can see, if you remember, these are all the general sample, and these are all the language test, which happens to have a value. It says B, this is the field B. B factorial is 1, you know, last done on this. This one has B is 8. So 8 factorial is for, you know, this, it has a function in it that does it. So I can see all of these things, but let's say I want to see some more. I can go over here. Now, notice you have a form view, and I also have a data field view. I can export this. Here's the list. I could have seen all of them. Let's select them all, check all. You can see them all. You can export this. You can email it. You can do whatever with this type of stuff. Let's take a look at this one. And here are my fields. Let's add a new column. And we'll call this column, let's see, what should we call this column? Form type, okay? And we're going to select the field from the form, and we're going to get the form type ID. There we go. And we don't want a title on that. We don't want it to say form ID : and then save it. And now we have this nice little column. I can change the width of the column if I want. Let's add another one. Oh, and then you can see down here that those are Lang 1. Add another column, and let's see. Let's add. Let's change the name to what's this? Let's see, number of photos, right? Let's do that. Number of photos. Now, because I've selected this, it knows it's G-sample that I'm looking at. So let's go down here, and we see that there is a data group called photos. Well, if I selected the whole data group, the value is the count. And so now we see the number of photos. The number of photos is 7, 1, da, da, da. So you see how many photos there are in terms of this. Well, when were each of these photos, and if we go here, we go here, you'll see that indeed it has a lot of photos. And this only has 1. That's the one. Yeah. So let's add one more thing. I'm going to add another column, and this column is the type of container that the photo is. And let's put this on separate lines is what we want. You can comma separate them if you want. Oops, I didn't name it. This is the type. Let's go back and type it. And you get to see, oh, let's make this, let's change this to something else. Let's make this the date when taken, okay? And we're going to choose the field, and the field we want, you can check more than one if you want, and it will do it, but I'm going to look at the date time when this was done. And now that shows you the date time of each of the photos. So you can see, like, these photos were not all taken on the same day. They were taken on different days and stuff like that. So that's that. Let's see, what else do I want to show you? We have, in addition to export here, you have an export here where you can export, you can download a file or download a PDF or send an email with this as a PDF or as plain HTML. In addition, you can export the entire dashboard definition. You can get a copy of it here as JSON, so you can mail it to people. It has all sorts of stuff for that. This list is configurable. You can configure per account if you want by adding others, and you will get others in the list, so you can add your own pre-built types, and there are features for doing that. And at this point, I'm going to open it. Let's see. I think it's time to open it for questions.
All right. Well, we don't have a lot of questions. However, if you think of them after this session, you'll have a couple more times to answer them. We do have a breakout session on Friday where we can cover TransForm questions, and we will be covering TransForm analytics, I believe, tomorrow with Greg Bowling.
So I can show more people. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you don't have questions, I can.
And I got one question here, and that is, how do you align the tiles so that they kind of match up neatly on the screen?
Right now, the tiles are done very simply. They are done as a div, one right after another, and you know, and it will wrap to fit, etc. And so it's the order, but of course you can change the order if you want. You can reorder forward.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
You know, so you can.
And
do
you
that.
can also, obviously, and you've shown this, change the size. So if you send
That's
it back,
correct.
you can make the one at the bottom bigger so that it spans both tiles. And you can make one at the top taller the
Yes,
top left taller so that it matches the 1 day's worth of
that's right. You
work.
have a lot of freedom in terms of that right now.
So that's
And,
the, yeah, that's the way to do it.
there's one like a really narrow one. That's specifically where you may want to put just plain text
Hmm.
and to explain what something is. It doesn't have to be a template with all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And the same thing with when you have the user inputs can be just plain text,
Hmm.
which are useful for labeling things and stuff like that.
Nice. So the question is this what the end user sees, or is this what the developer sees, or is it both?
The end user sees this.
Hmm.
Well, except unless you say auto refresh, in which case it hides everything. So now everything is hidden.
Yep.
And down here it says it's been 5 seconds since it was last refreshed. You can always refresh it again by clicking on it,
Excellent.
or every 15 minutes it will automatically refresh. Um,
Nice. Now, let's say you wanted to get a picture of this, like a snapshot of it to send it over to someone.
do
Oh,
that.
the export, and it makes it as a PDF or file,
Yep.
looks like. Yep,
Dare I try it?
sure.
Let's see.
Oh, that's right. It's on your local host, so I don't know.
Yes,
It
on my,
does work. It does work in real life, though. I've
yeah,
used
let's see. I don't know where did I
That's
get
fine. That's where it
that?
went.
I
Yeah,
downloaded it. Yes.
it's
We'll
okay.
have to go see if it downloaded, but you get, there it
Oh,
is.
there it is. Yeah.
Okay. There it is, PDF.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I've noticed that sometimes, and we may address this, it doesn't give you a true rendering. Like, for example, in the PDF, they look like they were stacked as opposed to having two next to each other. So what I've done is I've actually copied out dashboards and made like one that's good for printing, one
Mm-hmm.
that's good for viewing, which works
Right.
for now, but we'll probably
Right.
come up
You
with
have
some
to
other
think
way
of
to
the
handle it.
size
Mhm.
because sometimes you do want it to be depending on your size. You don't want to lose some, et cetera.
Right.
So, but depending on whatever we eventually are starting to do,
Mhm.
we'll be doing drag and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I have some other drag stuff that people seem to want more that I'm going to do first.
Okay, excellent. So someone said, so the end user can make these changes if they want to.
That's
They
correct.
can change that, but typically speaking, I would imagine because there's a fair amount of complexity in all those dialog boxes, or if you're writing TPL or things like that, you might just as an administrator want to set it up for other employees so that
Right.
they can have their own
That's why.
dashboard right from the
That's
draft.
why you. That's why
Mhm.
you use the account shared.
Okay, perfect. So you can build one and share it with other people who are on your same account, and then
All you do is you do this
mhm.
and say, if you're an administrator, you have the right thing,
Yeah.
then you'll have this save shared dashboards only,
Hmm.
make dashboard shared. I mean, you can
Yep.
do this. This is only if you have permission to do that. A normal user doesn't have that.
Right.
And then you can save the shared dashboards and that will affect the account shared dashboards. Only we
Now,
can,
when you
yeah.
open an account shared dashboard, does that become like a read-only copy, or is that like a copy that you have, but you can
You can,
modify it, but you just
you,
can't save it back to that
that's
same
right.
place?
You can't save it back,
Yeah.
um, but if you copy it, you can copy whatever duplicate the current dashboard. We'll
Yeah.
take the account one and make it yours. A copy of it. It'll say copy of, and we'll put it.
Perfect. Yeah. Great. Okay.
You can. All this is demo. Is it's all in here, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Fantastic. Yeah.
A
Would you
lot of
bring
people.
up?
This is
Yep.
the result of a lot of people's input and work.
It sure
A
was.
lot of people in, like just about everybody in development had some, and even in marketing and sales had all
And
sorts of input
and customers and everyone. Yeah.
and
This was.
customers. Well,
Yeah.
obviously through customers through them, and some people
Yep.
got to use it and stuff. You wouldn't believe. I mean, this has gone through many transformations based on input
Yep.
and feedback. That's why it's so configurable to do so much, and you'll see that when you see what Greg's going to be showing you in
Yeah.
terms of some of the things you can do with this. I mean, this is just sort of a smorgasbord, and but he's going to put together an incredible salad for you.
You will, exactly. Wonderful. Well, we are out of time. If you have more questions, obviously, you can go to our breakout session and also attend Greg's session. tomorrow, which is called the Analytics Session 3. Dan,
Yes.
thank you very much for presenting. I really appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Thanks everyone here. And that was it. Oh, someone would like to point out one thing for all you Alpha Anywhere fans, of which hopefully you're all Alpha Anywhere fans, that this was all built as a UX control, this amazing dashboard system here. Just kind of shows you the power of Alpha. So
Yeah, all of these things are, this is using the new charting facility.
Yeah.
This is all available, and we're barely scratching the surface of what you can do with this.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how configurable it is.
Cool. Well, it's time to go. I will see everyone here, hopefully, for Analytics Session 2. This will be designing dashboards, but using the Alpha Anywhere tools. So I hope to see you there at 10:30, about 30 minutes from now. Thanks again. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.